Well, joining us in the studio to talk about that and much more is the Housing Secretary, Robert Jenrick. Thank you very much for being on the programme this morning.
Good morning.
I just want to start with that film and what the boss of Truckman told me there in Dudley, saying that talk of divergence is unrealistic for his business because their main export partner is the EU. And that's going to be true for many businesses, isn't it? I mean, is there a worry that the government is just talking about divergence just for the sake of it, when actually the EU is such an important trading partner?
Well, look, we've left the European Union now, and the question for this year is going to be whether we leave the transition period with the kind of free trade agreement that Canada has. That's our preference. That's a somewhat deeper trading relationship, or the one that we secured last year, which is similar to the relationship that Australia has and plenty of other countries use to trade successfully.
No trade deal. Let's call a spade a spade.
Well, we already have a deal. What we don't want to do...
Not a trade deal, though.
We don't want to align with the EU. We're not seeking alignment. Our standards are already the same. In many cases, actually, they're higher, including on some of the things that the public care about very strongly, like the environment, like workers' rights. And we think committing to long-term alignment is both unnecessary and is incompatible with the objective of the government, which is to ensure that we regain in full our economic and political sovereignty at the end of the transition period. And the benefits to the UK economy, I think, will outweigh any concerns that might come through a somewhat higher degree of friction, which we're willing to accept because we don't want alignment. And I think you also heard on that video that the UK economy has started 2020 in robust health. In my own area, in the housing market, that appears to be picking up. You see greater investment into the UK. The certainty that business and individuals now have as a result of the election, as a result of having a functioning majority government at long last, I think it's going to see real benefits over the course of this year. OK.
The real test, of course, is what happens when that transition comes to an end. We'll have to wait and see what the economic situation is there. Now, I just want to ask you about a line from one of my other interviews. I interviewed John Butler, the contender to be the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, earlier on the show. We were talking about John Bercow and whether or not he should get a peerage in the House of Lords. She said that if the Conservative Party aren't offering the Speaker a peerage because of Brexit, that would be a form of bullying in itself.
Well, I haven't seen the list that the Prime Minister or indeed anybody else is putting forward for peerages, but personally I wouldn't offer John Bercow a peerage. I think you've seen some very serious allegations of bullying and harassment from senior, credible people, including a Lieutenant General who worked with him. These are important things that need to be investigated before any decision like that's taken, and in my own experience, Parliament is a better place without John Bercow, and long may that continue.
OK, a better place without John Bercow. Important, of course, to say that John Bercow denies these allegations, that the investigation hasn't, of course, been completed. But what do you make of John Butler's specific comment saying that the Conservative Party is effectively bullying John Bercow by not offering him a peerage on the grounds of Brexit?
No, look, I don't agree with that. It's the Prime Minister chooses individuals who could sit in the House of Lords as Conservative peers. There's no obligation on the Prime Minister to make John Bercow a member of the House of Lords. John Bercow never believed in convention himself when he was Speaker. He explicitly said that he didn't think that conventions needed to be abided by. He said that if you do that, nothing ever changes. So there's no obligation on the Prime Minister to do this.
But there is a convention that Speakers are elevated to the House of Lords.
Well, John Bercow was the first person, to break conventions. I think what's important here is that there should be a high bar on anybody who ends up in the House of Lords, as indeed in the House of Commons. And the allegations against John Bercow need now to be investigated. And, of course, a lot of his conduct is there for all the world to see because it was done sitting in the Speaker's chair in the House of Commons. OK, now I'm keen to move on to a couple of other stories in the news today. First on coronavirus. The news this morning that more people have now died from coronavirus compared to the SARS outbreak in 2003. How worried is the government? Well, this is a very serious situation, but we have a plan and we're working very closely with partners all around the world. The NHS is doing a fantastic job. As you know, there's a small number of cases of individuals in the UK, 3. There are British citizens overseas who unfortunately have also contracted the virus. Nobody, we believe, has contracted it in the UK yet. The individuals here contracted it abroad. We have a further flight of British citizens returning from Wuhan and landing at Brize Norton later today. They will be looked after by the NHS. They're going to a location in Milton Keynes where they'll be staying for a period of time. So we're putting in place all of the plans that we need to keep the public safe. And of course, the Foreign and Commonwealth officers have issued guidance urging British citizens who are in China now to make plans to return to the UK and dissuading British citizens from going out to China. But we will do everything we can to keep the public safe and to ensure that we work through this admittedly very difficult situation.
OK, another story in the Mail on Sunday today, confirmed by Sky News, relates to the case of Anne Sakoulis, the woman, the driver, American driver, who killed Harry Dunn, the teenage motorcyclist, fled to the US, claiming diplomatic immunity. Now, there are reports that she was a former CIA operative, although she wasn't at the time of the incident. Do you think that might explain why the US has been refusing to extradite her?
Well, I don't know the reasons why the US have turned down our request so far to extradite her. She needs to return to the UK. She should face justice, and I think it's a terrible situation. I think we all agree on that for the family, that not only have they lost their child, but they're not seeing somebody brought to justice for that. The government has been very clear. The Home Secretary, Priti Patel, requested extradition. The Prime Minister has raised this personally with Donald Trump, and Dominic Raab, the Foreign Secretary, has raised on a number of occasions with his opposite numbers and with the US Ambassador here in the UK. We hope they will listen, and we hope this lady will return to the UK and face justice. That is what we owe to the family that's in this situation that's almost unimaginable to all of us who are parents.
Well, it's pretty clear that you hope the US grants an extradition, but so far they've been pretty clear saying that's not going to happen. I mean, what does it say about the influence of the current government if on this hugely important issue that there is such agreement here with that you can't even get Donald Trump to listen to you?
Well, look, we're disappointed. You know, I won't hide our disappointment that we haven't reached the resolution we wanted to on this issue. We have a very good and deep relationship with the United States on many issues.
That you have a good and deep relationship.
We're frustrated that we haven't reached the result that we want yet. But I can assure you that we'll continue pressing the case. And I want to see, and I know that the Prime Minister does as well, I want to see this lady in the UK facing justice so that, of course, that doesn't bring back a child who's been killed, but it does at least offer the family some of the answers and the justice that they deserve.
Jeremy Hunt said the US isn't behaving like an ally over this. Do you agree?
Well, we are disappointed and frustrated by this situation, and we want it to be brought to a resolution as soon as possible.
OK. Now, the Prime Minister is expected to be announcing some infrastructure projects later this week. Of course, one of the biggest infrastructure projects is going to be HS2. We're expecting a decision on that as well. Do you want it to go ahead?
Well, look, I'm not going to speculate on the decision. As you say, it's going to be announced very shortly. What I do know, and I'm very pleased about this, is that there's going to be a big investment in infrastructure. We'll have to wait to find out the exact mix of projects, and I think there will be a range. So there'll be some big strategic projects. We already know some of those, like our commitment to Northern Powerhouse Rail, for example, like the new East-West Railway, which links Oxford and Cambridge, that we announced the route on just a few days ago. There'll also be more local investments as well that make a real impact on people's lives, whether that's local railways, reopening some of those lines, the stations that were cut by the beaching rules, filling in potholes, building local roads, regenerating town centres to get better transport in and out of places where people go to shop and to work. We have committed that this government will raise levels of infrastructure investment to the highest sustained levels that we've seen as a country since the 1970s. And that's essential if we're going to meet the central commitment of the government, which is to unite and to level up all parts of the country.
Talking about levelling up, talking about this big infrastructure spend, you're going to have to find the money to do all this. There are reports in the Sunday Telegraph today that some in the Treasury in Number 10 are discussing what people refer to as a mansion tax, so some kind of tax on wealthy homeowners, if you like. Is that a fair way of levelling up, would you say?
Well, look, I've been a Treasury Minister, so I've seen the speculation that happens in the weeks leading up to a budget, and I don't think it's helpful for me to comment on that or for others, whether that's Conservative colleagues or members of the Cabinet to comment on it. What I do know, because I'm working very closely with the Chancellor, is that we're going to have a great package which does what we said we would do at the election: level up, invest far more in infrastructure, invest in housing so that we get good quality homes built across the country as quickly as possible with the infrastructure that they need. And we're also going to ensure that we have a tax system that encourages entrepreneurship and investment in the UK at this crucial moment.
So you can't rule out a mansion tax then?
Well, I'm not the Chancellor, and even if the Chancellor was sat here himself, he would say that you need to wait to the budget on the 11th of March. What I can say to you is that this is going to be a budget which tries to level up parts of the country that feel undervalued and have not been invested in for a long time. And the work that I'm doing with the Chancellor on that agenda, I think, is going to have some very exciting outcomes. We are going to be building more homes, we're going to be reforming the planning system, and we're going to be ensuring that those parts of the country that need investment in critical infrastructure get it under this government.
So if you're a well-off homeowner in the South East who can probably afford to pay a bit more tax, you should be a bit worried then?
No, I haven't said that at all. We're going to have to...
But if you're levelling up...
You're going to have... Well, the point of levelling up is that it's not pitting one part of the country against the other.
But someone has to pay for it. Someone has to pay for the levelling up.
What we're going to be doing with infrastructure investment is taking advantage of historically very low levels of interest rates and using that to invest in the long-term future of the country. And that is the mark of a mature country taking long-term decisions, investing for the future.
OK. Now, the last time you were on the programme, I asked you about inheritance tax. And I just want to have a look at what you said at the time. You said it's a tax which is particularly unpopular because people can see the fundamental unfairness of paying tax twice. I can see why the Chancellor is interested in this one. The context was a Sajid Javid interview where he'd been talking about inheritance tax. So would you like to see some reforms of inheritance tax? Well,
the Chancellor and I are both low-tax Conservatives. We want to ensure that people can keep more of the money that they earn, and we're doing that. We've made some commitments to that in our manifesto. What the Chancellor chooses to do in the budget is for him, and I think we'll both have to wait and see.
How about stamp duty? If you're a low-tax Conservative, is that one that you'd like to see come down?
We've already taken on stamp duty the most important decision, which was to take all first-time buyers out of paying stamp duty below £300,000 a year. And we're already bringing forward further proposals to help the housing market. Last year, we built more homes in this country than any year in the last 30 years, 240,000. The Chancellor and I are working on making the planning system work better. And I'm ensuring that first-time buyers can actually get on the ladder for the first time. This week, we've just announced our new policy, First Homes, which offers a 30% discount to local first-time buyers to get on the ladder. Now, the reshuffle is looming. You've, of course, been put forward by Number 10 to be on the show this Sunday morning. Do you take that as a quiet vote of confidence, or are you worried that they might be being particularly cruel? It's one or the other. Look, I don't know. I mean, this is a decision for the Prime Minister. He'll decide who he wants in the Cabinet. It doesn't sound as if we'll have very long to wait, but I'm very pleased to be doing this job. I think it's the best job in the government, and it is about helping people onto the housing ladder, getting better homes built, safer homes, more environmentally friendly, and levelling up all parts of the country so that wherever you're born, whether it's my constituency in Newark or here in West London, you can share all the prosperity and opportunities of the country. Very on message. Number 10 will like that, I'm sure. There's been some discussion as well about whether Cabinet could be scaled back. I mean, this is a picture of the Cabinet table. I mean, I have to say, it's looking pretty cramped round there, isn't it? Do you think you could do with a few spare seats? Look, I think you're getting me onto dangerous territory. We're going to have to wait and see. There's a lot of talented people, in the Conservative Party, and the Prime Minister's got a lot to choose from. OK, Robert Jenrick, thank you very much for coming on the programme today. Thank you.